I had everything muted. What's
Oh,
going on,
there we
everyone?
go. I
Thank
was
you
just
for
about to
tuning into
text you. I
another
was like,
episode.
I was
Hey,
like, I don't know if he's got this. Let me see.
yeah. I tend to forget sometimes. How's everybody doing? Thank you for tuning into another episode of Clocking Out Podcast. We are live today on X, YouTube, and on Twitch. So if this is your first time tuning in, we go live every once in a blue here and there. We try to have some open-ended conversations with other people who are willing to share their firsthand experience on whatever journey they're on. Today we are speaking with Ryan. Ryan, how you doing?
I'm excellent. It's been a great day.
I know, man. You've been all over the place, man. I've been seeing you on all the socials, man, getting it in there, doing a lot of things, sharing a lot of useful information with people, doing the things with the podcast. Also, you've been sharing a lot of information when it comes to dietitian, nutrition, and health, which I saw earlier today. You were on a live stream on TikTok, I believe it was, with Jen Carroll.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Yeah. And before I get into any of that stuff, I wanted you to introduce yourself, tell us who you are, where you're from, your age, and a little bit of a history so people can get a better idea of who you are as a person before we get into the whole thing of, the sport dietitian and nutrition and all that stuff like that, if you could.
Yeah, man. I so appreciate one being on. I think that's it's a great opportunity. Also, you taking that time to kind of look into things and bring some really good questions here. So I'm definitely excited to jump in. So thank you so much. But yeah, I'm Ryan Turner. I'm a dietitian first and foremost. Own my own practice, mostly online. Also consult with a few of the boutique fitness studios in the city, just helping build out their nutrition programs, making sure we can kind of bring some sort of solution to anybody that is looking to close the gap on their long-term health, their current body composition goals. I think people make nutrition a lot harder than it has to be. So if we can kind of break through any of that BS and make sure that people can really just know where to focus instead of what to be afraid of, we're going to be able to help a lot of people. So that's kind of that's my thing. I think from a more professional standpoint, and man, I think across the board, just personally. But I am over in I reside over in Brooklyn, New York. Never really thought I'd be so much of a New Yorker, but I've now been here for, what is it now? My goodness, like 15 years. But I've been up and down the East Coast, originally from Jersey, down in South Carolina, down in DC, back up here to New York. Lived in Queens, over in Astoria, was in Manhattan. Now, yeah, I have two little girls, 7 and 3. And an amazing wife, and yeah, we're making life work over here. So that's what's going on.
I love that, man. And what would you say is a good or a bad thing being a New Yorker? Because I know everyone, like, they always have that thing of like moving to New York, and then they're like they go by what everyone says, and they like the whole hustle and bustle, and then they get here and they're like, you know what, maybe it's not all it's cracked up to be. Is there any good things you like about being in New York, or some things that you kind of dread? Like, some say it's really hard to leave once you get here.
Yeah. It is. It's hard to leave, and I'll tell you why. I'm hoping that this can answer the question of the good and the bad. So I'm always going to think of New York as an onion. An onion has many layers to it, and on the outside, people are like, "What the hell is going on over there?" When you start talking about the price of, prices of rent, prices of daycare, everything else that you kind of have to deal with. I mean, someone outside the city is going to look at that and be like, "Why? Why do you feel like doing that as part of your lifestyle?" And I get it, and people just aren't going to understand it, and it's so frustrating. Even those kind of things that people, it's like, yeah, I'm going to agree with you. Like some of these things are just BS. But I was just talking with someone yesterday about this, and it takes just one of those moments, and there's a few of those moments that pop up throughout the year that make all of those other things melt away, right? So these like layers of BS that you kind of get in the middle of is kind of what my analogy was before. But you eventually get to the middle of that onion, right, through all those layers, and you do not want to go back out of those layers because you've worked so hard, I think, personally and professionally, to kind of get in there. And if you leave, it's like, you know what, if I want to come back, and I've seen so many people come back after leaving, you just got to get back through all that, and so it's like, once you're here, you're there. But all those layers, all those challenges, there's those moments that I think just kind of uh, make New York so special. Like I was mentioning before, my family and I, we do a Christmas cookie tour, like all around the city. We go see the tree during Christmas, and then we hit up like a bunch of spots that just have like cookies that are fun to kind of grab. The kids like it. It's our way of just kind of like being out in the city, and it's just so amazing. But it's like that moment where you walk up to the tree, you live there, and it's like, wow, this is so cool. Like New York in Christmas time is just like you just can't match it, right?
Yeah.
I think the other things like over here, Brooklyn in the spring, when everything is blooming, you're like, where there is nowhere else in the world that you want to be in that moment. Like you could be on a beach somewhere, you can be in the mountains somewhere, but there's something special just about being around these brownstones and everything that is, flourishing in the moment. You have creative minds, you have people that are moving, you have, it's constantly moving for the good and the bad. And to leave that, man, it's addicting. It's hard to leave.
No, I agree with you, man. I live in Long Island over here in New York, and it's just like it's one of those things where it's like you hate it but you love it at the same time. It's so difficult. People, it's so hard to explain. Like you'll sit here and you'll complain about how expensive everything is, but at the same time when people are like, okay, then leave, you're like, but it's not that bad. Like, so I get where you're coming from. And the reason I ask is because it's even me, and I have two kids myself, and I've been on the back and forth lately of trying to take that step to leave out of here. But then at the same time, it's like I have so many reasons or excuses to be like, I don't want to leave, even if it's
Mm.
just leaving Long Island or going deeper into the city for like more opportunity, or whether it's leaving all this and leaving the city life and going to something a little bit more calmed down and relaxed. But I totally agree with you. There's a lot of little things like that you kind of miss out on, or you miss, especially if you grew up over here. It's a lot of nostalgic things. There's a lot of things that you can do that keep you busy, but at the same time help you create those memories, that whether it's the smell of the city and things that they're making or cooking, and like you mentioned, the cookies, or going to see the tree, there's those things that really make it a staple in the city, where it's like, no matter whether you see it in a movie or a TV show, it's going to remind you of those memories you created with your friends and your family and your loved ones. So I completely agree with you on that.
Oh,
What I
dude,
wanted to ask
100%.
you.
Hold on. I want to say something because you said it and it
Yep.
was so poignant. And I always think about this. I remember, first coming to the city when, it was like out of college. I had friends who lived here, and you would come and you'd visit them. And New York just felt like a playground, right? Where it was like you can just like run around. And the most special feeling was this. The most special feeling was like you're out in that hustle and bustle. You're out in like this craziness, right? This just like everything has energy, and you're young at that point, like you're hopping everywhere. But then you have a buddy who has like an apartment in the middle of it, and then you can escape, and then you end up getting a little bit of a recharge, and you're able to kind of get back some of those emotions, and you get back like a new plan, and you go back out in there. And it just felt I just New York for a person when they first come, I mean, that's a feeling I don't think I'm ever going to get again, but it was just so special. And you mentioned the smells, like New York just it's that smell, it's that raw, it's
Yes.
whatever you're smelling, the good, the bad, whatever it is, but it's just like
Yeah.
something that you leave New York and you come back and it's like, yep, that's New York, right? And I don't care. Like someone could hear me say that and be like, that's garbage. I was like, I don't care, because that smell is like so it's just there's something about the city, like that energy, the smell, everything. You just don't want to leave it. Yeah. Anyway, I cut you off. I'm so sorry, but it definitely was a point that
No, you're
I've come
good. I
across.
totally agree with you though. There's good smells and bad smells. I want to make sure I make it clear to everyone who doesn't understand what I'm talking about. There's some smells you'd rather not want to smell in New York. But what I wanted to ask you next, if you could share a little bit of your journey of how you became so passionate in promoting, healthy eating and nutrition.
Man, that's a really good question because I think it's definitely multifaceted. I also, I didn't wear this shirt on purpose. I just did a podcast and I was interviewing someone. I have it, but like I just ordered
I
these
love it.
before, and then but like when you wash something and it gets like just shrinks to the
Yeah, yeah,
size
I
and
know
it
what
just
you
makes you
mean. Yeah,
slightly
yeah,
uncomfortable. So I feel like I'm
yeah,
like
yeah.
tugging at it.
I hear you.
But health and nutrition, it is. I mean, it's always been in my life, right? So how can I be more poignant with this all? I definitely found, from a professional standpoint, early on that there were gaps within nutrition and healthcare. I think personally, that's another side of it, which let's see where this goes. But I guess I would start here. from a professional standpoint, my first job out of college was at a healthcare consulting firm, like a kind of a think tank down in DC. Now I was on the side of kind of helping our members, right, use this product that they were buying. Now this product, what it was research of the best hospitals around the country and what they were doing in cardiology, in philanthropy, and nursing, oncology, like you name it. There's a hospital out there doing it really well, and so taking their best practices and putting it in research, and then being able to sell it to other hospitals that want to do the same thing. There's just a lot of value in that, right? And so I think going through that, it was really interesting. It was definitely something that I appreciated really seeing. But I kept like looking at certain things in terms of like how it was never preventative. It was always kind of like looking on the back end and kind of trying to kind of fix a problem. And I've always had nutrition mindset, and before like even my Fitness Pal was a thing, I had my spreadsheets and I was like making my own, like my Fitness Pal. So like calories, macros, nutrition, those were all things that I was really doing like early on. And then, once I kind of saw, I was like, why, like, we're looking at oncology over here, we're looking at cardiology, and some things was like, well, why aren't we preventing people or selling, best practice research on preventing people from getting into the hospital or helping them heal from like open heart surgery, all that kind of stuff too, right? Like we want to prevent people from coming back in. So like nutrition doesn't have a role. Like, why aren't we talking about this? So, looking through that, and I think really seeing a lot of like missing support, I would say, just for general population. I wanted to make sure that what we were going to do, what I was going to do was go back to school for it. And I did. And so I went back from DC back up to New York, went to NYU, went back into a lot of the undergrad programs to figure out exactly what I needed to do to become a dietitian. I was also someone who was very deep into sports nutrition, just because I played lacrosse and soccer. I was a good runner, all those kind of things. And, nutrition was a thing there. So I really wanted to start to support younger individuals in, as they were playing sports. And I also wanted to kind of find some solutions within the healthcare system. So a lot of things were really going on, right? And so I wanted to make sure that what we could do is, be the best person I could be, right? Kind of find anything that I didn't know about nutrition. And there was a big clinical side of it that I didn't really know, like looking at labs, being able to correct certain things, what evidence-based research really is. We can't just kind of, make up, someone's nutrition protocol based on what we've experienced just ourselves. So all those kind of things were things that we were able to learn, that I was able to learn kind of going through grad school. I worked up at Mount Sinai in their heart center for a while. I was working in a lot of like post-surgical situations, kind of helping people heal, making sure that they weren't going to come back. So a lot of the things that I was actually thinking about when I was down in DC, I was actually able to help. Now, dietitians don't make hospitals money. That's why they don't get paid a lot in hospitals. But what they can do is prevent, spending unnecessary amounts of money. And so one thing that hospitals will really suffer from are these readmissions, especially after surgeries. If there's going to be some sort of infection and they have to fix that kind of thing, right? If someone has open heart surgery and they have an infection, doesn't heal well, you got to open them back up and kind of take care of some of that stuff possibly. So what dietitians were really trying to do, what we were really trying to focus on was making sure that we knew the nutrition protocol for them for better healing around protein, around certain micronutrients, around how their diet should look, like weeks, months, years after they've had that surgery. And, it was rewarding to a point. There was a moment, and, I can always come back to this if I want to, but there's a moment that I was working clinically that I knew I had to leave because a lot of things, like these very large moments in people's lives, right? They're having open heart surgery. It became very routine for me to see. And so I wouldn't say it was lacking empathy, but I think that I was definitely trying to make sure that I was going about taking care of people and their emotions in like a really interesting way, by just making sure that they kind of knew, it's like, look, you're not special. Other people have this. I want to make sure all your worries are taken care of. Like we've helped Jenna just next door kind of like recover from this as well, and like the guy 3 doors down. Like, so I knew that it was something where like I wasn't connecting emotionally with those people anymore, which I don't think is a bad thing, but I think it was something where it's like I needed to kind of move on to that next step.
Yeah, I
And that
hear
was
you.
kind of the most important thing for me. So went there, and then into a private practice for somebody else. We did a lot of weight loss, men's health, sports nutrition. That's where I started to actually spend a little more time studying specifically sports nutrition. I became the dietitian down at NYU, so their in-house dietitian working with their athletes and all their programs. And then I finally, got my I got a certification just for uh, specialist in sports dietetics, which is a lot of like eating disorders and understanding supplementation, understanding protocols for post workout recovery, pre workout. A lot of eating disorders, I'll say again. And then opened up my own practice that I've been doing remotely for a long time, and then kind of working with other gyms in the city right now, just helping develop their nutrition programs to help other people. So kind of a long list of things that we've kind of done there, but I hope that gives you some sort of insight into how things got started.
No, that's amazing. That's a long list of stuff, but it goes to show that you actually care about it. You know, someone wouldn't put in all that time and effort, not only to learn it, but to see how you can actually do something positive. You know what I mean? That's when it comes to health, it's like you were saying earlier. I also believe that it's something that people really don't focus on anymore. Um, I don't know. I guess the only way I could say is like even around the whole COVID thing, whether the whole vaccine or against vaccination or whatever, when that whole thing was coming up, I was just upset about the fact that the conversation of eating healthier and eating better and exercising or things like that wasn't even just spoken about, and no one would want to talk about it. And if you brought it up, it's all, don't worry, there's a shot or there's a pill or everyone I noticed would do anything and go above and beyond except for actually try to be a little bit more, you know, disciplined on what they eat or, try to exercise or, I just noticed that the more I look at things now, everyone looks at like the easier way out, whether it's either surgeries or taking shakes or some type of supplement or something like that. No one really puts in the time or effort to talk about what's actually good for you, what's healthy, what's easy to cook. A lot of people complain about their time when it comes to making things and how they don't have time, so they just get fast food or they get these easy shakes that come and they're equivalent to a meal. And there's a lot of things that growing up I thought was okay, and it wasn't until I started getting older and I realized, maybe these little fast food stops of salads and whatever it is that they have over there really aren't as healthy as they're making it seem.
Yeah,
And but there is a lot of things, and one thing I wanted to ask you before I go to my next question, I wanted to ask, because you mentioned how basically dietitians don't help hospitals make money. And of course that's understandable because you're trying to help people just focus on living a healthier life, and not have to come back and you don't have to see them again. Do you believe that that's like is it normal for hospitals not to have dietitians like on staff or
yeah, it's a really good question. No, most hospitals, if not all, are going to have dietitians on staff. If not because they want it, it's usually because there's some sort of government mandate that they have to have them anyway. Plus, when you think
Gotcha.
about hospitals, they're going to try to figure out whatever they can do to possibly bill insurance to make money as well, right? So it's
Gotcha.
sometimes, I mean, hospitals are tough for dietitians. One, because you're not going to make that much money, but it's where most people start. And I would recommend, if there's any dietitian listening that's maybe getting into it, start in a hospital. You're going to get paid like shit. You're going to be tired. It's going to suck. You're not going to want to be there, but you're going to be able to leave at some point. But I think the most important thing that someone should really think about that wants to go into dietetics is that knowing how to read labs and knowing how to work with doctors and knowing how the hospital system works is incredibly important, because you want to understand on the back end, let's say if you're going to work with some like younger professionals, like where could it lead them, right? Or where's someone coming from if they've been in the hospital? And so if you jump right in the private practice right away, like you're maybe you can make more money up front, but I think that you miss out on a huge opportunity to I think understand the larger picture of things. But dietitians in hospitals have a really hard job, because a lot of times, like you have, and doctors too, like you have maybe a minute and a half, you have 90 seconds to actually like talk with a lot of patients. Sometimes you have a list of like 60 people that you have to see in a day. They're all triaged by BMI, which is just kind of like questionable in itself. You might understand, people, it depends on what unit you're on. So it could be the fact that someone has like severe diabetes, but maybe they're homeless and they've just like had like, some amputations. And so like you can go see that person, you have to, but now you have to understand, is this person receptive to what I'm saying? And is telling them to eat some vegetables even going to be like absorbed at that moment, right? You want to understand, if someone's having open heart surgery, what do we have to give them, right? They're not going to be chewing food, so we have to understand how to work them through different types of textures in their food. And so we're going to give them a bunch of boost and protein shakes. And then you end up having family members looking at this and being like, wait this boost shake, it has this and this and this in it, it's so unhealthy. And it's like, well, wait a second, like you have to understand what we're prioritizing right now, right? We're not doing broccoli and chicken right now. Like we just can't make that happen because they can't eat that. It's not going to be good for the moment. Like, so the hospital's a really messed up place, and this is just in my opinion. So I don't want anyone to, someone hears it like, and maybe they love the hospital, because there are dietitians who love the hospital, and a lot of them will go on to become a physician assistant, and then they'll kind of go that route after a while. But yeah, you as a dietitian, and even as doctors, like you spend the majority of your time writing notes in a computer, sitting down at a desk versus actually seeing people. So a dietitian, where you're going to benefit someone with education and helping them out, like you don't get to do that. And so that's really hard. That's why a lot of people will break out, and like you'll see them on social media and they're talking. But getting into the importance of nutrition, it's like a lot of times the answer is the boring stuff. And the boring stuff doesn't sell. The boring stuff doesn't catch attention. And like then you will start seeing the Liver King, and that's where you start seeing like other type of influencers that are
Yeah,
pushing
I hear you.
bullshit because now they're fear mongering. I know that my messaging, I try and keep very close to my values in terms of what we prioritize, right? If we prioritize the things that we need to within the diet first, we're going to be able to lessen that negative impact from things like sugar, or we're not going to have as much inflammation as you think, and it's not going to be as unhealthy, right? So, before I'm going to tell someone like, don't have that dessert, I'm going to be like, what the hell are you having around it, right? If you're not having enough protein and you're not having enough fiber, that's going to help you actually control your blood sugar anyway, right? I'm not going to tell you not to eat that. Like, now you're left with nothing. And that's the bigger issue, is that people just get scared into not eating, right? Like there was just a post on like dairy that this like psychiatrist is talking about, and saying that like dairy is only going to be for it's only for baby cows. It's not for humans, and humans are supposed to maybe drink some milk of their own species, and then they're going to move on to just eating solid foods. That's what you should do. That's the proper way. It's like, that's just bullshit. Like, it's like, if you I responded with some evidence. I was like, look, here is a study right here that's going to let us know that we know that including dairy in your diet is actually associated with lower rates of obesity, with smaller waists, and also just reduced insulin levels, which she was saying, the opposite of. And so you have these individuals that are doctors. Well, I'm throwing up quotes because they actually are doctors, but it's something where they just don't know how to stay in their lane. And like, people know nutrition. Like, I've met a lot of smart individuals who've given really good nutrition information that weren't a dietitian, but I've also seen the other side. And so, I hope that we can, as dietitians, be able to provide the most sound information, and, help people and connect with them in the right way. Um, you know, there's just so much more you could talk about, right? In terms of like uh, all of the lobbyist-led type of nutrition guidelines that our government has put out, that people now associate with dietitians. Like, well, you're a dietitian, you were told to eat that food pyramid over there, so you're bullshit.
Yo,
It's like, well, hold on a
yeah,
second. Like, I didn't say that, nor I even following the pyramid anymore. So it's like
exactly.
all of these, like, it's all nuanced, and so we have to find a way as dietitians to promote the evidence-based type of nutrition strategies that are going to work for people. um, you know Keeping it exciting, keeping it appropriate for them. It's hard, right? But we're fighting a good fight, and so it always feels good at the end of the day.
No, yeah, I hear you. That the reason I asked is because it's like, you would think this would definitely be me as a regular person who has health issues and who's going to the hospital and who hates going again, especially for the same damn thing over and over. And you find out it's something as common as inflammation, but yet they
Hmm.
make it seem as complicated as something else. And then they put you on all these, like, when really all it is that you just need some basic stuff changed in your
Totally.
daily activity, you know? So that's
Hmm.
the reason why I asked, because like when I go to the hospital, I can tell you right now, I don't recall ever speaking to a dietitian, or maybe I have, but I just didn't know, you know? And then I
Yeah.
would start thinking, like, it's like you're saying, you know, a lot of them get overwhelmed with the work that they have and how much time that they have, and they can't really go in depth with actually giving real information like they would like to. And then it makes you think, okay, so then these people are clearly someone, or the type of people that patients should be talking to in a hospital. So you would think that that's something that they would dedicate a specific funding for, or a specific wing or something, to have more than just one or two or three people. You get what I'm saying? Or especially like
100%.
I feel like whether it's the hospital or even in schools, you know, or like there's certain things. That's why I'm asking, you know, if hospitals would do that, because in schools also, you would think schools would have a proper dietitian that would be there trying to give proper information, or set up proper programs for kids to get the nutrition and the health and everything that they need also. And the other reason I ask also as well, so like you're saying, if anyone's looking to get in the field, if I was a person looking to get into becoming a dietitian or getting that experience, the first place I would go to is a hospital, you know? So to hear
Hmm.
that they really don't focus on things like that, that's why I wanted to ask, you know, because I know a lot of people would ask, like, you know, how do you get on that? My first thing is, of course, like anybody else, you jump online, and it's like you're saying, it sucks because there's so many people that are back and forth giving half-ass explanations, or they really don't do the proper research. And then you're stuck there fighting between the person you saw a video and another person, such as yourself, giving proper information in the comments. And then you're battling with, okay, who has the most likes or the most views for me to believe, or who's the, you get what I'm saying? Because I've heard that myself too, about the whole thing of dairy as well, and you know, you shouldn't drink it and this. And then I fight with myself, like, all right, do I listen to this to new information I just heard about from this so-called doctor or social media informative, or whoever it is that you want to look at it as, or do I go by what I've been taught and what I've learned throughout my whole life growing up as a kid? Because you know,
Yeah.
with time, things are going to evolve, things are going to change, information, you know, there's going to be new stuff that we learn.
Hmm.
But it's the question of who do we listen to, and where do we go to follow or find out the truth, you know? So I wanted to add, that's the next thing I wanted to ask you. What are some misconceptions that people have about, you know, eating healthy and dieting and nutrition, and what's something that you found that people commonly have constantly as a misconception about this healthier lifestyle of living?
Yeah. I have my answer for you, but let me say this first because I think it's helpful, maybe to understand maybe where I'm coming from more than anything. But you know, one of my taglines, especially for my podcast, over at the Fuel You podcast, right? It's basically like, if it's working for you, your mindset, your definition of success, no one should tell you different, right? You do you. And it's so important because a lot of times people are being told what not to eat when there's not even an issue. And so it's like with dairy, someone's like, whoa, and like gluten is probably like the biggest, thing here. Everyone's like, yeah, you shouldn't eat gluten. It's like, well, why shouldn't you eat gluten? Someone's like, because it creates inflammation. Okay, well, what's the inflammation? What kind of inflammation? I don't really know. It's in your gut. Okay, got it. So what's wrong with your bowel movements? Nothing. Do you feel gas or bloating? No. But I shouldn't eat gluten. Why not? Right? It's like people are just kind of told, they just regurgitate what they hear because of someone that maybe has a six pack online. And so it's like, it's not really the fact that they think gluten's an issue. It's the fact they want to chase the six pack, and that's what's talking. And so it's really hard to kind of get away from that kind of thing there. If people really turned back in on themselves and they understood, when I eat that, does it hurt me? If the answer is no, then you're probably fine. So, and comes down to it, when you end up seeing these things like the genetic testing. Like, I just had a client, uh, the guy, he's just like, he's ridiculous. His name is Gary Brecka. The guy is just like full of bullshit. If you've ever seen him before, oh my God. But it's like the new thing now is like, all disease starts in the gut. And now I'm not going to say like disease can't start in the gut, but I'm going to be like, there's a lot more nuance to it than that. But I know one of my clients came to me with a blood test. It was a genetic test to basically tell us, what supplements he should be taking. And so, long story short, it was like, here you go. We're gonna test for these different variants within your genes. And it was like, okay, this one's yellow. That's why they were saying it. Like, you got to be careful with this one. That one's red though. And the answer all of them came back to just taking his supplement, right? And his supplement that is basically just going to have some sort of proprietary blend, which is bullshit, which means nothing. When you end up seeing a supplement that says proprietary blend, it just means that they're hiding bullshit within it. And so it's something you want to make sure that you're taking a safe supplement. And the reason, and there's like, if you hear anything with Gary Breck, just run away. The guy is just ridiculous. I mean, I could go off on like 12 people right now, and I don't really want to. That's not really my.
I hear you. I hear you.
That really isn't my thing. But it's like, I feel like I start hearing it and I start thinking about it. I'm like, I can just keep going. But yeah, so some of those things are just like the most ridiculous kind of like challenge that we have to like really deal with. But with nutrition, right? So the idea of like, if it hurts you, don't eat it, that kind of thing. But I think the bigger thing, right? If I had to come back to kind of looking at nutrition, what's going to help people, most people start with, what they're going to remove, what they're going to restrict, the things they shouldn't eat. And when you start that way, what you're doing is just taking food away. And that ends up creating so much fear. And that's like a lot of eating disorders, disordered eating patterns are going to come in there. But what we can focus on is what we need to prioritize, right? So like, let me just say this, that if someone is looking to make sure that they are going to decrease all-cause mortality, they're going to decrease their risk for cardiovascular disease, they're going to decrease their risk for obesity, they're going to decrease their risk for diabetes. Did you know that if you just eat like close to 24 ounces, or more specifically like 500 to 800 grams, right? That's going to be like, let's just say 4 handfuls if you want to think of it. Just fruit and vegetable, whatever fruit and vegetable you want to think about. But in most populations that are getting at least somewhere within there, like, and I always say 24 ounces. I'll come back to why I'm saying 24 ounces, but 24 ounces. If you look at the bag of like broccoli or a bag of frozen vegetable, like it'll say how many ounces are on there, and most are going to be like 12, right? So technically what you could do is just eat 2 bags of these frozen vegetables, right? Now, I'm not saying you have to do that, but if you ate 24 ounces every single day of that, that is associated right there with just reducing all-cause mortality. Okay. Why don't we do that instead of thinking that that damn sugar that you just ate because you and your kid were connecting over an ice cream cone, like that's not going to kill you. The lack of the fiber, the lack of the phytonutrients, the lack of all that is what's going to kill you first. Now, that's one thing, but let me really get on the next thing, because this is the most important. People don't understand this yet as much as they should, but I am liking the movement that I'm seeing. The movement of strength training, the movement of focusing on muscle-centric type of health, right? You're looking at girls no longer having like a flat butt, but actually wanting a butt and kind of getting some of their, just growing their butt. Let's just say that, right?
Yeah.
That's not inappropriate, because I'll tell you why. But being able to kind of, lift in a way to get stronger and adding to your body instead of taking away is such a huge benefit, because muscle is the biggest driver of longevity. Muscle is the thing that provides energy for us. Muscle is the thing that's going to help us just control blood sugar, in turn cholesterol, in turn inflammation, if you want to go there for a second. It's going to help you stay stronger. It's going to reduce risks of falls as you get older, because one of the biggest one of the biggest predictors of death in elderly is going to be a fall. And when they first fall and they break something and they go in the hospital to fix it, that usually is starting to kind of get them into position for death, really, because they go into a hospital, they get hospital-acquired infections, and they're never the same. Now they're going to be bedridden more often. They're not going to move less. Their muscles going to waste away. Their blood sugar is going to go out of control. It's going to affect their kidneys, their liver, their brain, all of those kind of things. So a muscle-centric point of view. So eating enough protein, getting enough fiber, like I mentioned. If we can do those things, there's nothing I said about not eating something, right? Everything I mentioned is 100% about getting what we need into the body first before we start taking things away. And if we do that, we're all going to be in a better spot. But instead, a lot of these people will tell us, you can't eat seed oils. You can't eat anything that's not grass-fed. You can't eat anything that's going to have dairy in it, right? You can't eat gluten, right? It goes on and on and on. When really, we're just not eating enough of the stuff that actually makes a difference, right? So if we can just be better people all around with that, we're going to be in a better spot as a society.
I agree with you on that, man. I really like that you mentioned the whole thing about like not feeling guilty about like sharing treats with your kids and stuff, because I'm one of those people, like I'll be with my kids, and like it's not all the time, but once in a blue, like if it's like a Friday or something, I'll take them to go get pizza or like fast food, or it'll be
Sure.
late, and then I just, it'll be a nice day out, and I'd be like, let's go out for some yogurt or ice cream or something, and then they get like those monster cups, or they want the big sundae with the banana split and all that, and then all I think about is, am I being a bad parent? Because that's really not good to eat, especially now, and all that sugar. And then I used to be one of those real strict parents that I wouldn't even let my kids eat fast food or drink soda or none of that. But then as
Yeah.
you start getting older, like it starts getting tough. And then it's like, okay, you got to go get like the fast food because you don't have time. And it's like, okay, only juice. And then at once in a blue, oh, can we please get soda? You give them a soda. Like, so you
Yeah.
give in every once in a while. But I always think about that. So what I wanted to ask is, do you have any tips that can help someone try and transition into the healthier diet lifestyle without being overwhelmed or deprived? It's like you said, you didn't mention not having this or not having that. It's just being a little bit more aware of what you're actually putting in your body. You have any tips that helped you, or that you see helped other people slowly start transitioning and making those big decisions that, make a healthier lifestyle for them?
Yeah, totally. I mean, a lot of it, I would say, is going to be what I just mentioned, right? Prioritizing first what's going to be needed in the body. Prioritizing protein, prioritizing fiber, and then what you want to have with it is going to be fine, right? So like this is the thing I always tell people. I'm like, even if you and I right now, you had a sugar cube in front of me and I had a sugar cube in front of me, and we're afraid of blood sugar spikes, right? Okay, got it, right? The more often we have these blood sugar spikes, the more likely we are going to stress our liver out. We're going to have issues with insulin sensitivity. We're going to have other issues around, let's just say inflammation, just to kind of appease everybody here. But if you and I ate that sugar cube, we're going to see some sort of quote unquote negative effect. But you know how to reduce that negative effect? Just eat that damn sugar cube with some protein and some fiber. And so now instead of that sugar cube, let's call it rice. Let's just call it potato. Let's call it bread, and do whatever you just want to do. Now, this doesn't mean that things like calories don't matter, right? Because calories do matter. Of course they do. But it's something here where if someone is looking to start, don't start by taking things away. Don't start by trying to kind of hit that lower end of your calories just yet. Start by just prioritizing these foods. Now, I'm not saying this to promote anything right now. I'm saying it for clarity because I think it's going to end up helping. But I did, like everything that I've done, all of the teaching, all of the learning, all of the sharing, everything that I've done has kind of come together when I was recently working with one of my clients, and he mentioned something, and he kind of went on this like quote unquote diet, right? Well, here, what he did, he was like, what's this warrior diet thing about? And if you're familiar with the warrior diet, it's basically eating like one meal a day at night and whatever else it is, right? Just that's all you need to know. But what I had learned from that, because I'm very much like, okay, he wants that. What's he saying? Like, I'm not going to tell him he's wrong right away. I'm going to be like, yeah, there's evidence that shows it's not going to be the best thing for you. But why is he deciding to do that? And so, his big thing was just, it was ease. It was a lot of just like, it took a lot of the mental load away. So what I developed for him is what I called Habit 24. And so I said, look, I want you to follow this Habit 24 protocol right now. And he's like, okay, cool. What is it? I was like, look, I developed this thing. It's just for you. And it's honestly just to make sure that you understand maybe what you can do with this. I was like, you can basically eat whenever you want to. You can make sure that you can eat, even higher protein. You can eat whatever you want. There's no restriction. But your goal, the only goal in Habit 24, 24 ounces of vegetable and fruit a day, 24 ounces of protein. I said 24 ounces of water 4 times a day, and 2,400 steps 4 times a day. If he did that, I said, that's the only thing I need you to do. What I'm not telling you to do now, I'm taking the mental load away from you. I'm saying you don't have to eat every 4 hours, and you're going to have that many grams of protein and that many calories. I was like, I'm going to take it away. I wiped it clean. And I said, this is what you can do. Because I ran this through probably 90 different meal plans when I put it together. And all of those meal plans across the board, they all fell within a really simple range that is going to help the majority of people. 24 ounces of protein, 24 ounces of vegetable and fruit. Now, again, nothing is restricted, but I will tell you that if you prioritize that, like there's definitely kind of like quote unquote rules that I kind of like put in there, but it's not restrictive, right? It's making sure, okay, you prioritize these, you get that much in there. You're now going to help your long-term health, your short-term body composition goals. You're going to work on your satiety. You're going to make sure that you're controlling your blood sugar. You're working on your bowel movement and your gut health. All of those kind of things are coming together without you having to do anything else, just besides eating 24 ounces and 24 ounces. If you do that, you will be in a good spot, right? And now there's some trust there because there's going to be nuance, right? Like, so when we're having like 24 ounces of protein, like we're not doing 24 ounces of ribeye every single day. Although he did that one day, and I was like, great, you know what? I'm not telling you no. I'm telling you, let's make some of these days a little bit different. And so we just prioritized different proteins. That's all we did. I said, hey, here are leaner proteins that you're going to get there. But we didn't talk calories. We didn't talk any grams of anything, right? And that's my jam. Like, I teach calories and macronutrients because sports nutrition really in just involves a lot of that, right? With a lot of my athletes, we want to get dialed in. And so you have to know calories and you have to know macros. But I was like, but these people aren't going to be there. Like, that's not what they need in the moment. We need the mental load gone. And it's been incredibly helpful for people too. So I've run this program now. I built it and I was like, hey, you know what? This is going to work for other people, not just my one client in San Francisco. So I was like, we're going to make this happen. So I really made it a thing. I made it something that's an actual program people can jump into. We do it monthly. It's 24 days long. 24 days long. You're building habits, right? In 24 days, you're going to build a habit, be able to walk away knowing what to prioritize, not what to restrict. I hope that gives you some clarity there.
Yeah, no, I really love that. And I was actually going to ask you about that because I was speaking with someone who who said they were looking forward to the stream today because you were going to be on. It did mention the Habit 24 program, and they told me to definitely ask you about it. So I'm actually happy that you brought that up, because it's things like that I feel like it actually helps simplify the whole. It's like you said, it takes that stress load off of making it seem like it's something that's really that difficult or complicated to do when it's really not. It's like you said, it's taking those little steps of making those differences and making it like a consistency of you getting used to doing it and not have to overthink or really worry about all that other stuff. Like you're saying, you know what I mean? Like it's like you mentioned before, how people were talking about, oh, everything's in the gut, and it goes right back to when people are trying to take these steps into being healthier or make any changes. The first thing anybody does is run straight to their phone and social media, and they want to see what results everyone has. But with all these influencers and people getting paid for advertising and all that stuff, you never know who to really believe. So it's always like a 50-50. And it always gets to
Totally.
that point where right before you're going to make that actual decision to take that step to make a difference, it's always that one thing. It's either it's either you know someone personally that went through it and you saw the actual effects and you can see the difference in them, or if not, you follow someone so long that you say that you're going to start today and it's not until like 2 or 3 months in that you actually see them change or lose weight or do something drastically that you're like, you know what, it has to work. Little do you know, it's like you're saying, like there's other people that they'll do surgeries or they'll do this or they do certain things and they make it seem like they did it in the right way. Not that there's a right or wrong way, but you know, everyone has their own way of doing things, but they make it seem like their way is the only way or their way is the best way. You know what I'm saying? And that's what really sucks about the social media stuff. So when you have people such as yourself that are making programs like this, that I haven't done it myself, but like I said, someone mentioned it to me, and it seemed from what they were saying, and what you're even explaining, very easy to follow, and it's not that difficult. You said it's 24 days, right? Not 24 months, not you know, it's something I believe it's very obtainable for someone to at least try. And I believe within those 24 days, I think that's a good enough time to give something to see if it really works, so you feel a difference or see a difference, you know. So I really, now, I want to learn more about that also, where people could go on either your website or your podcast or anything like that to listen. I mean, to you know, join that or
Totally. Yeah. You can go to foodisfuelnyc.com/habit24 to learn a little bit more about it. I definitely need to be doing a little more promoting around it. But, you know, every month I'm building it with the next cohort that's coming in. So it's exciting. And, you know, one thing I would definitely say too, I really want to highlight the fact that, you know, there are, I would say, ways to improve your health, improve your body composition that are going to be more sound, I think, across the board for the general population. But I also want to make sure that, we come back to that idea that if you've done something and you've improved your health and you're sitting somewhere right now and you're a healthier person, I don't care. I don't give a fuck how you did it. Congratulations. Like if it ended up being with, you know, medication, if it was surgery, if it was carnivore, if it was keto, if you put yourself in a better health position, that's amazing. And I'm going to now pat you on the back. I'm not going to say shit. I'm going to say, great. I'm so glad you did it. My next question might be, what are you going to do now? Some people, they're going to continue doing it, right? But the way that someone goes about doing some of these things, I think what happens is that we become so combative with these things, like, with like the carnivore crowd. They're like, well, I did this and it changed my health around. And then you have vegans that are like, well, I did this and it changed my health around. And what I always say is, like, you have these two groups that are shooting missiles at each other, right? The carnivore crowd, the vegan crowd, when like right in the middle is the safest spot. It's like, look at all these people that improve their health by taking both aspects. Like, someone's like, you must hate carnivore people. I'm like, I don't hate carnivore people. They're fucking annoying. But at the same time, like, they've also promoted eating more protein, and a lot of people were eating a lot less protein. So I love that. And someone's like, oh, then you don't like vegans. I was like, no, I like vegans too. They're also annoying as fuck. But at the same time, they're helping promote things like some plant-based foods. And they're eating more fiber and giving creative ways to kind of bring some of those things in there, right? So it's like we have to be a little bit more open. And I don't want to take words or reuse things, and not because we're connected somehow with V friends and stuff like that. But like, Gary talks about being a lot more purple. Yeah, it's so true. I mean, you even see it like in some of these crowds. You see it's so politically charged, it's ridiculous, when really we all want the same thing. We want to be healthy. So I do want to make sure that someone goes through the best way that they can for them. Now, what I will say outside of that is we are all evolving people. And by that, I mean, like, we all go through seasons and stages of our life, right? We have kids, we change jobs, we move locations, we create interests, we go through depression and anxiety, we go through highs and lows and all this kind of stuff. So, you know what? 10 years ago, when someone did carnivore and it worked for them, great. But you know what? Now it's not working for them anymore. And if they keep going back that direction and it keeps failing them, then carnivore is not good for you. Same thing with vegan, same thing with keto, same thing with anything else. So we have to understand, keep the conversation open. Um, we all need something, and the way that someone over there has done it is not going to be the way that maybe you need to do it. And there's going to be little adjustments that we can always make, and we just have to make sure that we're staying open to the conversation and finding what works for you. And I think that's going to be important. So I mean, even down to, I think I wanted to say this before, but even with like the habit 24 thing, I didn't just develop it for mental load and just to make sure people can lose weight. That's not what I did it. In fact, we don't really even talk about weight loss in particular, because I try and keep that language as simple as possible. But maybe it's a little bit of a transition here. But I know, I was having a lot of mental challenges most recently. I was pretty open about it. I'm open about it now. But I would say, if I had to define it really quickly, I was like, yeah, I had what I would define as like a mental breakdown almost. When it was a moment with like my business. It was just busy. My dog was dying. My like 1.5-year-old at the time was just like keeping us up all, like, I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating well, I was putting all my clients first. You have the financial challenges. Now my dog's dying. Like, it's crazy. I don't know what to do, right? I keep saying my dog's dying because it was a huge thing. He was like our first kid. But during that time, like, extreme depression, extreme anxiety. I gained like 20 pounds. I know what the fuck I'm supposed to do with my nutrition. I know. It's not a question. Why couldn't I do it, right? Why was it something that is just kind of like, it snuck up on me? I wasn't binge eating. It was just something where, like, I was moving less, eating more, all those kind of things there. But a lot of us have these mental challenges. And one thing in particular that I think was uncovered were just some things about just my own brain, how my brain worked. And the fact that I was a dopamine deficient brain, and it's defined for a lot of people as ADHD. And I talk about ADHD all the time right now. I hate overusing the word ADHD or the acronym ADHD because I don't think it defines exactly what it is. If you don't have ADHD, you don't know what the hell it is, because I do not wish anyone without ADHD with it. It's a mess inside your head. And so when you go through these moments in life that are incredibly challenging, it uncovers so much about you. And you have to work through those challenges. And why I brought this up, I think, was because when people go through different styles of what's going to work for them, like with Habit 24, I made it specifically. I developed rules around it specifically for people with ADHD or people that are dopamine deficient, so that it's something where they can stay motivated because there's competition, there's a cash prize at the end. I gamify the shit out of it, right? So now you can, your daily tally is kind of created so that you kind of know that you're beating the next person. Like, I'm a competitive person, I need that shit, right? So if I know that I'm not going to be able to be at home and follow a meal plan, like, no one follows meal plans, everyone asks for them, no one follows them. But the idea here is like that there's competition, there's nuance, because it's something you haven't heard before, right? And it's also a little bit of pressure because you know the things that you have to get done in 24 days. Like, I developed it for the brain that needs a little bit more of a push. And it's because I needed it. But it's also because once I started talking about this ADHD, this dopamine deficiency, and all this kind of stuff, I will tell you the amount of people that came out was like, I feel that way. I got diagnosed with that. I didn't know that was a thing. Do you know how rewarding it was to just be a little bit more vulnerable and talking about it? And I felt as if I didn't talk about it, that I was doing people disservice, because there are people that are suffering with the challenges that come along with ADHD, and people do not understand it. My God. And so when we can now kind of give a face to it, when we can connect over it, when we can kind of support people, we're all going to be better for it. And so I'm doing my part as best as I can. And I will continue doing that. As part of my podcast, I like to talk about mental health as much as possible. Anyway, I'll stop there because I can
No,
obviously just go off on
I
that.
really do. I do appreciate you bringing that up. That is something that I myself struggle with. That's another reason why I try to make content. I struggle with anxiety and stress and depression, and I can't say I don't know what I have. I know I have something. I know something's wrong up there. I know I overthink about things. I know I'm highly emotional. I know, like, when it comes to certain things, it's hard to control my emotions or thoughts or reactions. And I know it's things that I need to work on, but I also know that there's a lot of things that it's just like you mentioned before about, getting that experience in the hospital, with anything, you're doing things the hard way and not really knowing what you're doing. You go through these processes and you gain this hands-on experience and you learn these lessons that I feel you wouldn't really learn as well any other way unless you went through it yourself. And when it comes to mental health stuff, it's always good to go look for help, but I do believe that there are certain things that you go through that other people won't really understand or be able to relate to, that you go through yourself and you kind of start self-analyzing or you start coming up with your own solution to it. But I do appreciate you going out of your way to try to help other people who are just like you, who might not understand fully what's going on or not know anyone else who has any other, similar reactions to certain things. And it's hard to find people willing to be upfront and open about that, whether it is mental health or, ADHD or whatever it is. It's hard nowadays to find anyone, whether you know them personally or whether it's online, to really be open and honest about it. And I appreciate things like that, because when I try to do it, many people may look at it like, oh, it's for views, likes, or whatever. But at the end of the day, I'm not that popular. I don't have that big of a following. But I look at it like I try to be as honest and upfront and as simple as possible, because I know for a fact after dealing with it so long and believing that no one else would understand or that there's no one else like me out there, I've learned the hard way that there are people out there. They just suffer in silence, or they're too embarrassed to ask for help or to share their story or to find other like-minded people, you know. So I do agree with you on that. You know, I think it is something that is making a difference in helping people. I don't think there's such a thing as being too open or too honest or speaking about mental health too much. I think we don't speak about it enough. And you know, I think anyone willing to shed any light on that or give any advice or trying to make anyone feel like they're not alone, I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart, because I was one person that I could tell you right now, if it wasn't for the V Friends community or online, I honestly don't know where I'd be, because I felt very alone. I felt like there wouldn't be anyone that would understand when it came to that, you know. And yeah. So what I wanted to ask you next.
Well, here, hold on.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's just stay here for a second because this is important. So, you know, I think, and also, I got more comfortable. So if you're getting feedback as I hold this mic, let me know. But, you know, I think my wife's a social worker, and so therapy comes up a lot. And so when I end up going through those episodes of depression, anxiety, like we're pretty open about it. Like, you know, even if we're just like, if we're fighting and it's just a hard time, like we know what's going on. And like who needs help, what's going on. But you know what? You know what gets me so annoyed and I just like confused and tired of it is that people end up having these challenges. And the first thing that someone ends up saying is go to therapy. Great, okay, I'll go to therapy. I've gone to therapy, got a bunch of people. Great people, people that, you know, were good and I stopped working with them, whatever's going on. But everyone just says, go to therapy. What does that mean at some point? Like, I think that a lot of us end up going through this and like, maybe we don't go to therapy. Maybe we're open to it. But like, I get so tired with this idea of people just like, go to therapy, go to therapy. You're just kind of like parroting this, like this line, like go to therapy, it's going to fix it. What are we going to do in therapy to fix it? And I think that it's not until we all become a little bit more open about specifically what's kind of not working for us that now we can be our best advocate and approach therapy with a more with more nuance, with more specific direction, with personalization that we actually need. Just like nutrition, like someone says, "Oh, you're unhealthy. Go see a dietitian." What does that mean? Like, what are you gonna do? Like, there's protocols. There's different theories and philosophies to follow. There's different things that you can kind of try. Don't tell me to go to therapy. Tell me what's wrong. Tell me something that we're gonna target and kind of work on it. And look, I'm very open to understanding that therapy is definitely not linear. Like there's gonna be highs and lows. You're gonna regress. You're gonna take steps back. You're gonna take steps forward, and that's all good. Now I'm not going off on therapy, but I'm going off on the fact that like we all just assume, oh, you're having a mental challenge, go to therapy. I think it's something here where we all can kind of fall into some more of these specific groups and help each other out a lot more. And I learned it, I would say, the hard way by not talking about it. But once I finally I was tired of myself, right? Because I was like, I'm just riding high on anxiety every single day. And then I hit these lows. And then I think my business is suffering. Oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to be a good dad. Now I know the things that I have to work on. Let me start talking about this. Oh, you're also worried about not being a good dad. Oh, you over there, you're worried about your health too? Now we can talk about how depression affects that or how anxiety affects that over there. But if we keep those things inside, then we're all just going to therapy. What does that mean? Like behind a closed door, you're just getting some help by yourself. Like we are better together, right? What's the saying, right? A rising tide lifts all ships. Let's do it together.
Yes.
Which, look, Let me get away from that for a second because I want to transition over to something I think is pretty special that you were talking about. But the V Friends community. V Friends community. I mean, it is fucking special. It is.
Yes, it is.
And sometimes I'm like, is it that special? I look back, I'm like, it is that special. And I know that from the outside, like when I'm wearing my hat, when I'm wearing my shoes, when I'm wearing my shirt, right? Someone's like, why are you wearing cartoons? Like, what is that? I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, whatever you think right now, like, I'm going to tell you, but whatever your feedback is and whatever you're about to say, I don't care. I'm going to let you in on what I really feel about it. And it's all positive stuff, right? Because it is its own thing. And so we're talking about this mental health. And, I think we all feel like we have a place right now. And just to talk about kind of like VDADs for a second, I connected with Josh a long time ago. I connected with Blaze, just salt of the earth people. I love them both to death, and I think that we each gave each other a platform to be able to talk about things a little bit deeper, which I think was really good. But I felt that as we were having kind of spaces and talking with more dads, I was like, there's something here. And I don't know what it is, and I don't think any of us know what it is yet, but there's an overlap. And it's not just these characters, and it's not just Web3, and it's not just some, money. Like there's something else here. And so, I've been like, I'm like 8 episodes deep with people, 8 interviews deep, let's say that. And I have, another 6 lined up because I want to get into these conversations and understand people more, because every individual is special, but every individual I'm finding is just looking for something. Now, I don't want to overplay this because I think everyone, no matter where you are in life, are looking for something. But I feel like there's something about people that, the OGs and the friends, the people that are like still coming in now, there is something about these people that is making it so special, and I'm really working to uncover that. And it's pretty amazing. And I guess we can keep talking, and maybe I'll talk about what one of my one of my thoughts is about it all, but maybe about the larger picture, larger project. We'll get there. Anyway, just soapbox there for a couple minutes.
No, I fuck it. No, I love it, man. I love it, and I do agree with you. I feel like it's like you said, V Friends came around at a time that I think a lot of people were just looking for a safe place, and I noticed that that's one thing. It was the same thing as you. Like when I went to VCon, I went to the second one. I wasn't able to go to the first one, so I went to 2023 VCon, and I went and I took a friend of mine who was brand new to the space, and I mean brand new to NFTs, brand new to blockchain, brand new to V Friends and that whole community ecosystem thing. And when he first got into it, like he didn't care about flipping, he didn't care about profits, he didn't care about crypto, he didn't care about none of that. He was more intrigued and he was more into the whole thing that there's these many amazing people who really actually cared in some way, shape, or form gathering together. And he's like, I didn't even know this existed. He goes, it's kind of hard to find 1 or 2 people to care. He goes, but to find this many people who are complete strangers, who are really literally willing to give you the time of day to sit and listen to you and try to share a little bit about themselves to let you know, like, yo, like, I've been there, or you're not alone, or don't worry, everything's okay, and giving you a little bit of like light in at the end of the tunnel that you thought was like never ending. It's just crazy. And it's like you said, like you start noticing that if you stop thinking about all the differences and focus more on the similarities, you start noticing that there is something there, and it's just crazy. You start noticing that the people you care less about what people present themselves as what they look like or where they're from and everything, and you start going like, yo, this person isn't that different from me, or this person might be able to understand where I'm coming from, or they might get what I'm trying to say. And you notice that it's just not that hard to have a conversation with these people compared to other people, and it's just weird, but I love it. I love the energy that it brings. I love the way how everyone's really open to just share with one another, whether it's just advice, information, you know what I mean? It's something that I think was needed in a time that a lot of people I felt were call it gatekeeping or being secretive, or you know what I mean, the mysterious. And now it's just everyone's like, yo, no one really cares about none of that. This is really this, we're all going through something. We're all just being here for, you know what I mean? And that's what I really loved about it. There was no faking or sugarcoating or anything like that. But before we get into more V Friends, what I wanted to ask you and go back to when you were mentioning the whole thing of mental health and all of that stuff, is there anything that you think that's related to food and dietitian that can actually help, or that you feel is like has a relationship between food and mental health, that you think that people like certain foods can help positively affect people's mental health or cognitive abilities in certain things, because like it's not always just emotional. It's like you said, it's not always go find or go to therapy or anything like that. Sometimes it's just, certain things. If it's not the people that we're around, it's a lot of the things that we're consuming, whether it's food, whether it's information and content and things like that. Do you believe it's the same thing also with certain foods? Do you believe that that can actually play a major part in people's mental health or emotions or anything like that? And if there is, do you think that there's some that can cause a positive effect compared to others that are just affecting us negatively when it comes to that aspect?
Yeah, great question, and incredibly necessary to talk about, because the answer, in short, is going to be yes. And again, as a dietitian, we want to look for evidence-based, recommendations here. So we're not just, as a dietitian, I'm going to hope most dietitians aren't just going to say something that's worked for them and that's how we're going to roll. It's not. Because there are certain things that I felt like I didn't do that, or that I did that didn't really seem to help that much. But then you kind of look back on it, you're like, but it didn't make it worse. And I think that's kind of important. But when you start thinking about, at least, I'm going to stick with ADHD, but also underlying anxiety and depression, all those kind of things too. Your brain is deficient. Like, your brain is anatomically different than someone without ADHD. And that does not mean, like, I hate the fact that it's called a deficit. I hate the fact that it's called so different. It's the fact that, yeah, you have a brain that is not wired for the world that has been created around us. And so we gotta now be looked at as different. But you know what? The more we talk about it, we're not that different. There's more people like me than not, and that's pretty fucking great. But yeah, so when you start thinking about that brain that's deficient for the world that we're in, you have to operate from that understanding. You want to start looking at certain things that are going to help the brain think and be able to work with your short-term memory. Also, make sure that you can stay motivated to get things done, all that kind of stuff, right? It really starts with things just like your neurotransmitters in your brain. And so, what usually is going to be a precursor to a lot of these neurotransmitters, it's going to be amino acids from protein. So, if you're protein deficient, you're likely putting yourself in a deficiency straight off the bat. So, you have to make sure that you're definitely getting enough protein, but you also have to make sure you're getting enough calories. Now, that's a really big thing within this world, especially with ADHD, because you have a lot of people that are on stimulant medication. You are on people that don't really have the motivation to take care of their health, to cook, and all that kind of stuff, too. So what you're going to find is that a lot of these individuals, whether it's depression, anxiety, ADHD, whatever it's going to be, you're going to find these people that aren't actually taking care of themselves that well. Beginning of the day, they're not really eating that much, and they end up binging at the end of the day, right? And so now they're taking in extra calories, but their response is, I'm not really eating. I'm only eating one meal. Well, it's like, no, like, we have to fix this. So now it's going to be timing of meals, making sure that we're having protein dosed, or rather, just these boluses of protein and amino acids into the brain, so that our brain continues to get that, and it's going to help our body. So all those things. So we're not talking about muscle just yet. We're talking about specifically the brain, right? So protein, calories, carbohydrate. We want to make sure that we're going to be getting carbohydrate to make sure that we're going to be fueling our brain, right? Our brain's going to run off of fat and carbohydrate, but it's also going to be the main fuel source when we end up having carbohydrate too. So we can't be just restricting carbohydrate our whole time. We want to think about phytonutrients. So certain things just like zinc, magnesium, iron, right? All of these other micronutrients are going to help the brain operate that much better as well. So like iron obviously can come from protein, but we also want to get iron from other kind of darker green vegetables. We want to make sure that we're going to be getting magnesium from what I always say, baby plants, things just like nuts and seeds and leafy greens, those kind of things there. Potassium from those really colorful fruits and also those colorful vegetables, right? Eat your reds, eat your blues, eat your yellows, all those kind of things, right? So now we talk to the carnivore crowd. It's like, well, you're missing that over there. You talk with the vegan crowd. Well, you're missing protein over there. We got issues. So we want to make sure that you're eating enough calories. We want to make sure you're eating throughout the day. We want to make sure that you're definitely eating enough protein. You're getting enough of those colors, enough of the fiber. It does go back to certain things like in Habit 24 that I was talking about before. This is not a promotion for it. It's just like, holy shit, yeah, it can be that easy if we just make it that easy. So it's there. Then you can start getting into things just like omega-3. That can end up being such a beneficial thing as well, right? Making sure we know that you're getting enough omega-3, more than 1,000 milligrams a day from EPA and DHA, which is going to be specifically from like marine fish sources. So those are going to be good, right? I'm talking about everything to include. But yes, there are going to be things that can not support your brain, and that can be, it's a lack of certain things. But yeah, your blood sugar, if it's going through the roof because you're trying to eat these highly processed, these overly processed, these highly palatable foods only because you're not able to support yourself and cook a meal and get protein. So you're just going to turn to, I don't know, let's just say chips, right? Chips and cookies because it's right there and it's easy. Well, I get it and I'm with you. I know it's hard, but we got to work through it. We have to find a solution so that you're not eating only that, right? High saturated fat is not going to be associated with a brain that's going to be working the way we need to. Alcohol. Alcohol is probably the number one, challenge, especially with a lot of anxiety, depression, and ADHD, because it's going to interfere with with neurotransmission. It makes things like anxiety and depression that much worse. It can definitely affect our appetite a lot differently as well. It is going to dehydrate us. Now, a brain that doesn't have enough water is not going to be good, right? We want to make sure that we're staying hydrated. But, the two big ones that aren't so much, food related, you have sleep. Many people with anxiety, depression, ADHD are going to have sleep disorders. They're going to be people that are night owls, and at the same time, they might be morning people too. So they're getting 3, 4, 5 hours of sleep maybe, right? And so it's something where we have to make sure that we're taking care of those individuals. And you know what the worst advice is? To tell someone to put their phone across the room and try and work on some sort of sleep schedule. Like, yeah, we get that. Like, shut the fuck up. Now it's time to make sure that we understand what's happening. We're gonna make
Yeah.
there's so much. It's like just journal, just just food prep. It's like, yeah, we get all those things, but when people start to make the most difference is when they start to connect with communities and they're open and they're vulnerable. And you know what, you're gonna regress, but you have to make sure that you're trying to take some steps towards some sort of solution there. But the last one, sleep, would have been the last. Like, sleep is just huge, right? Sleep is the one thing. Like, I have so many individuals just across the board that are spot on with their nutrition. They're spot on with their training. The one thing missing is sleep. And sleep, when we are getting, usually, just to give you a number to work off of, we're getting an average of less than 6 hours of sleep a night, it's catabolic. It starts breaking down muscle, despite what you're doing. And if you lose muscle, you are losing health. You are losing performance. You're losing your ability to support your brain too. So sleep is going to be one of the things we have to get in there, but movement is the other, right? So making sure, like, we know that more movement is going to help with neurotransmission. It's going to help reduce anxiety. It's going to help reduce depression. It's going to help control blood sugar, right? Everything we want. Why the fuck aren't we moving? So it's something that we have to make sure that we do. So get your steps in, right? It sounds so simple, and I get it, and you've heard it before, but I try and break it down, right? Simple tasks, like 2,400 steps. It's like a little bit over a mile, 4 times a day. Okay, great. Maybe do, 2 2,400 step counts in the morning. You're going to run, walk, whatever, 2 miles. And then maybe around lunch, you're going to go for a walk for 2,400 steps. And then at night, after dinner, if you have the time, 2,400 steps. Just give you something to shoot for, right? So someone says, well, where do I start? Start with 2,400 steps. Tomorrow, start with 4,800 steps, right? Do what you can. But strength training is probably the last thing I would leave people with in terms of, like, what can we do? Strength training. I already mentioned that muscle-centric nutrition is a thing that's going to support our health, our longevity, everything that we want. So if you're not doing something to mitigate muscle loss, because as we age, after the age of 30, every decade we lose just naturally about 5% of our muscle mass. It's just a natural thing. And if we allow our body to lose muscle, again, we're removing health from our body. And so we want to make sure that you are doing anything to just maintain muscle mass. I don't care if you don't build muscle mass. Like, I know how you can build muscle mass. I'll give you all the answers. But it's something here where you just want to maintain muscle mass. And what you do, you don't undereat, you get your sleep, you eat enough protein, and you strength train at least 2 times a week. And that strength training, don't let it confuse you. It's pretty damn simple. You don't need to lift that much to maintain your muscle, but you do need to do some sort of body weight movement, whatever it really is. So we just want to make sure we're taking care of people that way. A lot in there, but it's all necessary.
No, I love it. There's no such thing as too much. I'm telling you, trust me, especially when it comes to this. I know a lot of people, the weather's changing. I know they're all trying to take notes and get things ready for the summer so they're not out of breath going up and down stairs. You know what I mean? They can make it shopping or take them trips to the beach. So I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people right now that find all this very appreciative, especially, they want to not only look good, but feel good, and have a better, clear mind and just I think all of this is going to help many people, especially myself. I'm taking notes like crazy while you're talking. I know I'm going to run back on this and start, practicing a lot more of this stuff as well, because I've been trying to take my health more seriously. And the big thing that stops me from taking that step is like we've been talking about, is a lot of overthinking. It's a lot of misinformation, and we make things seem more complicated than what they really are for ourselves. You know what I mean? Instead of us just going into it and just getting things done. Before I know we while we were speaking about the V friend stuff in the community, I know you mentioned you wanted to talk about a project or something that you got going on and that's in the works or something. But before I get into that, I wanted to ask you about some recipes or any meals that you think are really simple that people can use, that basically are like nutritionist meals that people could do that aren't that complicated or too difficult, that lets them get the proper nutrition they need, whether for the week or the day. I know earlier today you were doing a live stream. We mentioned with Chef Jen Carroll. Is there anything that you guys cooked up, or any recipes that she shared with you that you would like to tell us that you think are easy or not too complicated to help us get on this right track of getting the right nutrition for us?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, no one is short of recipes. They're all over. They're all over the internet, right? I have my software where I can just type in how many calories and macros you need, and it'll spit out all the recipes you need.
I
So it can
love that.
become really overwhelming. But at the same time, I think it's something where, yeah, they all can end up working. There are certain things, like certain, if someone says, is this a good recipe? I'm going to go back to things that I've just said before. Where's the protein? Where's the fiber? And I would definitely say for most individuals, a meal between 500 and 700 calories, making sure that we end up getting somewhere between 30 and 45 grams of protein probably is going to be good. And we want to get somewhere between 4 and 7 grams of fiber. Full stop. Done. If it's not there, then we're probably not going to be able to give you a meal that we're going to feel confident with, right? So look on the back of a package, plug it into a food tracker and kind of see how much is in it, whatever you're going to end up making, right? Um, but, I guess to quickly jump to one example, and then I want to tell you how I want you to break this down to make your life easier for yourself. But Jen Carroll and Jen is just an amazing person. She was season 6 Top Chef. She was a finalist. But again, just like an amazing person. She works really closely in her business with her fiance, Chef Billy. So they're both chefs. They put on these amazing events in their home down in Philadelphia. Part of their, you sign up for their Patreon, and then you're part of their Spice Club. They send you a spice every month, which is all part of what I'm going to say. But like, you get this spice, it makes things really interesting. But like, you can sign up for these events. It's a dinner that's coming. It's in their home. It's just an awesome place. And it's Jen. She usually cooks a menu that might be based off of a restaurant that she used to work in. But it's like I guess I'm gonna get this wrong. Maybe a 7-course meal. But it's so awesome. Like, if people want to upgrade the way that they're looking at food, like, that is the way to go, right, from a culinary standpoint. But Jen and I, we 2 weeks ago, we're kind of going on lives every 2 weeks right now as we experiment and see kind of what we can get from this. Um, and we did like this carrot slaw 2 weeks ago, and it was something that you can kind of make, and it's really simple to keep in your fridge and kind of pair up with anything else that you're going to end up eating. Today we ended up making these spiced beef kebabs. They're simple, right? Carrot slaw and beef kebabs. Like, we're not blowing anyone's mind with those. But the one thing that we are really focusing on is, like, you know, I think people look for these things they can do. Like, most people, I'm gonna tell you this, dude. Most people, they know their calories, they know their macros. They're not overcomplicating things until they hop on social media. Most people understand it. And so it's something where the biggest thing that we have to do is help them understand how to just stay accountable and how to make sure that they're staying consistent with things over time. And so when people get bored, when people don't think it's fun anymore, when people want to just change it up and they kind of look for something else and something catches their ear, like someone talking about some bullshit on social media, then they just kind of get off of that, that path of, solution. And so, a lot of the things that Jen and I are cooking or planning to cook, they're simple. They're simple things. But what we're doing is we're adding these spices to them that are coming from Jen's Spice Club. So every month they send you a spice. But the reason why I was like, yeah, let's do this, because we know that if you end up getting, it's like 3.4, I think is what the study is going to show us here. But it was 3.4. Is that Journal of Clinical Nutrition, I think it's what it was, from 2022, I believe is. I can definitely share it at some point. But it basically showed that if we can include spices, and spices like this, like the 5 spices that are going to have things like ginger and coriander and cinnamon and all that kind of stuff. If we're able to, and it's not a lot, like think about just putting a little bit, like a small handful of spice, like right in the middle of your palm, right? And you just kind of like put it on some of your meat, whatever it's going to be. 3.4 grams. If I said, I don't know if I said that right, but 3.4 grams. It's not a lot, but if we spice our food and eat that much per day, it's associated with a better controlled blood sugar, lower risks of diabetes, lower risks of cardiovascular disease, and if we can do that, we're going to support people's health. So now let's take your calories and your protein, your macros, all that kind of stuff. Let's just add some flavor to it. And why are we going to add a flavor? Because you know you're fucking bored of chicken and broccoli. But now what we can do, we can send you in the mail, Jen. It's going to send you these spices, and now all of a sudden your chicken and broccoli has these new like West African flavors. You know, the next month it's going to be these new like South American flavors, right? So it's amazing the way that you can go about and help people just stay consistent and like interested in their food. So just that's that Jen Carroll bit. It's like, check it out. We're having so much fun with it. But I want people to think about this. I want you to think about if you are someone that is going to be either a creator, okay, a creator, if you are going to be a base prepper, or you're going to be someone who is a full prepper, okay? I want you to think of those 3 things. So creator, base prepper, or you're going to be a full prepper, okay? Now, what I mean by that is you can think of yourself right now, in your time, in your lived experience, what you're doing in the moment. Now, a creator is going to be someone that is going to take a recipe. They have the time, they have the focus, they have the ability to make a meal, create a meal, right? Turn the oven on, do multiple steps, and you're going to use a recipe. And some people are like that, and that's great, and be that way. Other people are what I call a base prepper, and they're going to be someone that is going to not have a lot of time, but they also want to save some money. They want to maybe cook at home. They want to just be able to kind of pull things together. They don't really care about the overall quality as much of their food. They just want to make sure that they can eat. They want a little bit of creativity within there, and then there's going to be someone that's a full prepper. It's someone who does not give a shit about cooking at all. They don't want to cook. They hate cooking, in fact, right? They will pay a premium to make sure that they don't have to touch anything in the kitchen, but they have no time. They just have to eat and feed their body, right? So think about who you are. Think about the person. Are you someone who like has the time? You have the ability to kind of get things done. Food quality, right? The way it's cooked, the way it looks, right? All that stuff means a lot to you. A base prepper, again, think of that. That's just going to be you. You're like, yeah, I still want some option. I want to be able to create something. But you know what? I just need to make sure that I'm not doing too much in the kitchen. I don't have a lot of time. Or you're someone who's like, nope, got no time. Don't care to cook, don't want to cook, don't have to do anything. I just have to put something in my mouth and keep my body going, right? Which one are you? And so just take a minute, right? Think about that. Write it down. Put it in your head, whatever you want to do. But the best thing I can do for someone who says, I'm a creator, I'm going to give you 3 meals a day. Here you go. You're going to make them. I'm going to give you your food shopping list, and you're going to make sure that you get it done. This can be something like a casserole. This could be something like a beautiful veggie omelet in the morning. This could be something like the best made sandwich, whatever you want to do. You can make all these things, okay? That's not me. I think it's me sometimes because I do like cooking recipes, but I can't do it most of the time, right? But that's going to be someone you're like, okay, I'm going to go to Ryan, and I'm a creator. He's going to give me a meal plan. 3 recipes, 4 recipes in a day. I'm going to make them. Great. Let's do it, right? I'll give you perfect calories, perfect macros. It's going to fit whatever you want to do. But don't bullshit me. If you're someone who cannot do that, don't tell me you want a full list of recipes because it's not going to work for you. So a base prepper. Tends to be who I am. Now, a base prepper is going to be someone that I'm going to ask. I'm going to say, I need you to choose 3 different proteins. Hard-boiled eggs, salmon, and let's just say chicken, right? I need you to choose 3 different heartier vegetables. Okay, it's going to be broccoli, Brussels sprouts, let's say carrots, right? Done. Okay, cool. Now we know you have 3 proteins and you have 3 base options for you, right? And what I'm going to ask you to do, I want you to now, cook about, I'm going to say this is going to sound like a lot. I want you to cook 10 pounds in total. 10 pounds in total of your eggs, of your fish, and of your chicken. You're going to just cook that and you're going to have it ready to go in the fridge. You can dice it up, you can cut it to strips, you can do whatever you want with it, right? But you have 10 pounds now sitting in your fridge for the week, 3 different proteins. I want three different kinds of base in there too. So this could be that carrot slaw I talked about, right? So it can be kind of recipe you put together. Maybe it's just microwaved broccoli, like in a bag, and then let's just say it's going to be, simply I don't know, some raw, let's say raw green beans that you can quickly throw in the microwave if you want to. But this base prepper, who I am, I'm hungry. I go in my kitchen. What I want to do now is I'm just going to take one of those proteins. And today I want salmon. Great, already cooked salmon. Protein's done. I got it. Omega-3 protein, good. Then I'm going to go in my fridge. I'm going to grab, some of this carrot slaw that I made just the other day. Great, Jen Carroll made it. Tastes delicious. Now I'm just going to pair those together, put it in a dish, walk away, get my work done. I'm good to go, right? So it takes a little bit of the prep, but you prep ahead of time because you don't have the time, right? You want to make sure that you're going to set yourself up for success there, right? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, no, I get you.
Right. And so this is the person too. It's like if you want to cook any of that, then go get some pre-cooked chicken, right? There's easy chicken that's already cooked. If you have to make it even a chicken nugget for your protein, do it for the week if that's going to be the case, right? But get your pre-cooked proteins. Get it from the deli counter. Get something like the pre-cooked or the microwavable vegetables. Make it simple. You don't have to do anything. Now the full prepper, right? Now don't bullshit me. If you're not going to be someone who can make recipes, you're not someone who wants to do anything and have even touch food whatsoever. Now you're going to be the person that has to understand what they're going to walk to the fridge and just pull out and get a fork and eat it. Now this is going to be the person that I'm going to target. I'm going to say, we're just going to do meal delivery service. We're going to do these frozen meals and we're going to add 2 things to them, make it really good, right? So I think most of the time we want to make sure we know who we are and what's going to work best for us. And so I'm a base prepper. I know a lot of my CEO types, they're going to be the full prepper. So I'm going to call them out on their bullshit. I'm not telling you to make anything. Stop asking me. What we're going to do, we're going to go hit up Eat Clean Bro. We're going to order 3 of your meals a day. You're going to get those delivered to you. And then you're going to see the body composition change that you want. And that's how we're going to find success, right? Stop telling me you're going to do it any other way. And so there's a certain point, I think, of confidence within this whole industry that you start kind of reading people and you're like, no, it's just not going to work for you. Stop thinking that anything you're going to do by, doing that fad diet, it didn't work for you before, it's not going to work for you now. I will tell you likely what's going to work better for you, right? So it ends up being really helpful. But that usually is how I'll kind of break things down for somebody. It's not answering your question exactly of give me 3 recipes. If you want to, you can go back to TikTok or go back to Instagram. They'll be right there. And I also just created 251 recipes, a recipe for every VFriends character that is available.
Nice.
I'm doing my work to try and see how we can. I'm doing my work to try and get it out there.
I hear you. I hear you. No, but that's all great. Honestly, that was actually what I was looking for. Also, it's just things to try to make it a little easier to transition into that. I just feel like once you start the small little steps, things just get a little more easier, and without you even really noticing, you just start doing these different changes, and you pivot into having a more healthier lifestyle or mindset. And it's like it just starts with those little steps. So I think any of those things, because it's like I would feel bad trying to go to a place and get cooked chicken or something like that. Then I overthink myself, all right, am I getting the right type of chicken? Does it matter if I get it from Whole Foods or a regular grocery store? It's like things like that I know a lot of people tend to overthink, and then they wonder, oh, does this count? Doesn't it count?
Yeah, man. People overthink organics all the time. Organics is just a cash grab by the USDA. So it's they're like, should I be having this organic food? You know what? If you want to go to your local farmer's market that's not labeled organic, they're going to probably be doing a more organic produce than any other organic labels that are out there. Now, it's kind of an absolute statement, but it is going to be something where it's we do overthink it, and you're so right. It has to be grass-fed. It has to be, organic. It has to be this only. It's you have to do what you can do most consistent that's going to support your lifestyle. That's what you have to do.
I agree with you, man. I wanted to get back to what you were mentioning. You said you wanted to talk a little bit about a project or something you got in the works. We were talking about VFriends, and you mentioned how you wanted to dive into something, but you wanted to leave it for a little later, or maybe I misheard, or you were
Allow me to
ideas
say
of
it.
starting something.
There's definitely a few things that I feel we just kind of launched in terms of projects and stuff like that. But no, there's nothing that I think I'm sitting on that I haven't really kind of talked about yet. I mean, some of the big things just for me, it's like my own business, my podcast. I'm in the talks with some pretty amazing new facilities to start helping them with their nutrition programming. So like personally on that side, it's really good. But I think just kind of starting up like VDADs right now has just been incredibly rewarding for me. I know that with Josh and Blaze, we just started up Dad Friends Vending. So
I love that.
we're buying some of those machines, finding some place to put them. Grabbing. I'm going to grab one here for Brooklyn. We're going to have a few up in Rochester where they are. We're going to see what we can do. I'm just nervous in Brooklyn. I don't really know if I can. I don't want to say I don't know if I can make it work. I just don't
I
know if
hear
it's
you.
going to be safe or, I'm like, am I just going to lose this product?
The next day it's
So
gone.
I know, because I walk around the neighborhood. I'm like, where could this go? I was like, I don't
Yeah,
know. I'm just like, I feel like they're gonna say no. I feel like it's gonna get it's gonna get broken and just stolen from there. So I'm never really sure.
I hear
So we'll
you.
see where it goes. But yeah, so many things are happening right now, and I'm extremely grateful for it. But anything involving VFriends, it's everything. I mean, even just being here right now and whatever caught your attention for us to have this conversation, like it's what VFriends has given me, the platform of, dads, the platform of being able to talk with people, all of us just passing around these messages of kindness and support. Like we're all just kind of like getting attention from each other this way, which is just so amazing.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, man. I love it. And what got my attention about you is that I was constantly seeing you on my feed, and I was like, let me see why everyone's resharing and liking, and what am I missing out on? And the more and more I started tuning into the content that you were sharing and the things that you were putting out there, the more I'm like, all right, I got to surround myself with more people like this. So that's what I've been trying to do, is just add up the inventory of amazing positive people that I have that are actually trying to make a difference and doing something in one way or another to just be productively active, whether it's in this space or just in general. I just feel like I'm not around enough people like that in my life personally. And for one reason or another, distance or whatever, or me just not putting myself out there, I'm taking those baby steps, and it's starting with this right now, doing things on social media and working my way up to getting to know people and getting more comfortable, and then hopefully making it to VCon and seeing them in person and going to other events, and then having that just build up even more connections with other people. Like that's just like the whole master plan that I have. I feel like I spent a good portion of my life keeping a good part of who I am a secret. And the more that I get into this community, the more that I speak to people such as yourself, and I learn more about you guys, I see that I've been doing that for no reason, and I've been getting more comfortable and more used to the idea of just letting people know the real side of me, and what I'm really trying to do. I always used to think doing things like this was something that wouldn't fit with who I am, and that people wouldn't want to give the time of day to listen to me or watch or anything. So to be seeing things slowly start building up, watching people such as yourself slowly start building your own little community for what you're doing for your podcast and your ideas, and how you're networking with other people, and you guys are creating other projects, and that's leading to other things. I love that. I love how all these different ideas are just smashing together and just creating these things out of nowhere. And it's like you're saying, like we're all getting to know one another, and it's like we're all in this little ecosystem, but like little by little we're all starting to branch out into our own things or into other stuff. And it's just, I love it. It's all just come from a positive place. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how many other people I can see, or get to know, whether it's through having them on here or watching them through your content and your podcast and learning more about them, or from VDads. All those things I find very useful and positive in my life right now. Instead of me scrolling aimlessly on my phone and watching pointless content, I like coming and seeing other fathers, talk about stuff, other content creators, and other people who have, whether it's mental health issues or stress and anxiety or financial issues or whatever. It's just good to see that there are other people who are going through somewhat similar situations, and they're all sharing what helped them get through it, what helped them keep moving forward. And like I said before, I don't think there's enough of that. So when it comes to you speaking about nutrition and eating healthier, or just when I see the content that you post and the notes that you make for your kids and things like that, you know, I love that. I feel like I've never really seen other people share that. And it went from things that people used to do and hide and not really be so open about, that the more open it is, the more it's making it more acceptable, I guess, or more cool, or more, you know, normal. That if you think about wanting to say something nice to someone or write notes to your kids and be more positive, and it's not so weird, you know. A lot of people tend to feel like it's a strange thing, or it's not normal to be positive, when I think that that should be the norm. It should be normal for people to speak positively to one another, or to speak openly, or to share thoughts and ideas and information. Like, I don't see why it's not like that, you know. So I'm very grateful for people like you, for what you're doing, the communities that we're a part of, V Friends, the things that you guys are building to try and just push that positivity out there, and that love and support. You know, I really love that. So before we get out of here, I just want to make sure that everyone please go and show Ryan some love and support. I'm gonna make sure that I have all of his social media, all his social media profiles, as well as his websites or contact information listed in the description to wherever you're watching this or listening. Make sure you show some love to his podcast too, the Fuel You podcast. Make sure you check out V Dads. Go show some love to Jen Carroll and what she's doing from Top Chef. And also make sure that you stop by at the Food is Fuel and at nyc.com website and get more information on the what was it, the 12 habits? No, not even. I
Habit
messed that up.
24. Yeah,
Yes,
no, it's all
habit
good.
24. Yes.
Yeah.
And
No,
get more on
I
that.
feel
I'm
like there's
definitely
so
gonna,
many of those like acronyms out there now. You're like, wait, what is it?
yeah,
I
but I
got you.
know, but I love it. That's one that it definitely caught my attention. I definitely want to look more into that and try giving that a shot. You know, because like I said, I'm trying to make that step, you know what I mean? So if I can be an example for somebody, you know what I mean? Well, whatever I can do to help.
Great, man. Well, I so appreciate it. You're doing a great thing. And I hope that you are feeling that you're doing what you need to get out there. And I think you're probably doing a lot more than you think you are. Don't get in your way, because I think that
Thank
you
you,
are
man.
kind of moving in the direction you want.
I really appreciate that, man. I thank you for taking the time, for coming on here, sharing your story and sharing some information with all of us. You know, just for accepting my DM and for coming on here. You know, it's a slow build up. I'm hoping to get a little bit better at this, and I really appreciate your time and the information you shared with us, Ryan. Thank you very much, man.
Yeah, dude, anytime. I'll be here.
All right, everybody, take care. Thank you for tuning in. I love y'all. Stay safe. Peace.